After 44 years of experience, I've realized how important it is to be completely balanced. I was involved in the drug dealing, I was involved in the violence, but I really knew it wasn't who I was. I want to show people that they can dance, and they can fight. That they can be soft, gentle, loving fathers to their daughters, and they can be hardcore soldiers if they need to be. Men, we want to put everything in a box because it's easier for us, but it's time for us to level up and become more well-rounded. And I'm going to show you what my life looks like and how I do that every single day and how I live. The way I view life is that we are creation machines. So I'm creating right now, and what I'm doing is I'm manifesting reality, right? So I look at this and I'm like, I'm turning my imagination into reality, and this is where it starts. For me, this is about what I call future positive journaling. And what I do is I literally just write as though everything I want to happen is happening or has happened. And it just switches the frame in my mind. So I'm actually creating reality. Mark Longwith. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, and I'm 44 years old. My childhood was extremely chaotic. My parents were having an affair and wound up having me. My father and my mother fought a lot. That was really unsettling for a boy, obviously. My mother's first husband was a drug dealer. His brothers were drug dealers, so my cousins were drug dealers, so my sisters were drug dealers. I did fall into the life a little bit, and I had a really big wake-up call at 20 years old. There was a car accident, and my sister and my niece, who was my goddaughter, and her husband were killed in a head-on collision. They all passed away. It was really rough on the family. And then 2 weeks later, I had a situation where I suffered a gunshot wound and I almost died. And so when all that happened all at once and I got out of the hospital, I was like, man, I really need to get my life together. And then I put myself in an environment with people that were striving for more, where previously I was in an environment people were just getting fucked up and doing drugs and partying. It really was the discipline and kind of the wake-up call that I needed to say, hey, let's get my shit together and let's get this going.
Where are we going today?
To the Finca, baby, Envigado. Everybody says San Diego has the best weather. I lived there for 2 years, and I'll tell you, Medellin like blows it out of the water. Just so. Mi favorito. And so I went down this rabbit hole. It was kind of dark, but when I emerged, I had taken a little break from martial arts. I went back to the martial arts. I got super focused, and this is when I really started to get focused in my life. I decided to grow in the restaurant industry. I got my black belt, started doing jiu-jitsu tournaments, started fighting professional MMA. I wound up speaking to a friend of mine, was like, hey, you should take this personality test. Gentleman giving the test, he owned this big company, he was trying to build this test, he was a coach. I said, hey, like, I've never had a coach, but I'm really looking to get out of this business I'm in and grow something different. I'm just not aligned with my partners. I didn't have the money. I put it on a credit card, and I worked with him for 4 months, and it was life-changing. Like literally within the first week, he literally stops me, he goes, what do you really want to do? And I said, I want to make a lot of money, and I said, I want to help a lot of people, right? He's like, well, what if you could make a lot of money helping a lot of people? I'm like, well, how do you do that? Super stoked to show you not only this view, but my bowing routine. This is Rocky, bro. Be careful. It's so sick. It's where I really find grounding, and then after I ground, I show gratitude. I think that gratitude, especially in the morning, is like a great way to start your day. And then also, at the very end, I really just fill myself up with the intentions I want to go throughout the day with. So he helped me become a coach. I started a business, we called it Business Jiu-Jitsu, bad idea. Don't know where my head was at the time, but honestly, we got our first client, we were in the black right away, and I started working with people that I was familiar with, because I knew how to transition from the industry to business. So I started working with 2 Michelin star chefs. As I started coaching people, I started to see myself, and I started to see my own flaws. I'm seeing these empty pieces in these clients of mine, and I'm starting to fill them in myself even more. And I just had this calling to heal, and I knew that I needed to get away from Vegas. Hey, I've got the money, I don't want to go back to work now, and I moved down to San Diego. I got an opportunity to slow down and just sit with everything that I had not even been able to pay attention to in Las Vegas, and I just started healing from the inside out. And it shifted me as a person entirely. Those 2 years down there, I healed from my trauma. I did all the crying. I did all of the crazy, inner child work, all the stuff and issues I have with my mother. Like, it was a really great opportunity for me to just shift and change and start to step into this person that I've been becoming for like the last 4 to 5 years. I think what I would like to instill in the people I work with is the ability to have conscious leadership, like actual awareness, through developed integrity. And I know those are big words. And so what I want to share with you is conscious is just awareness, right? Like, am I actually doing what I say I want to do? Am I aware enough to know about that? What am I bringing into this world? Am I making an impact? Am I not? And then the integrity part is really learning to honor yourself, to honor your word. Because when I think about an evolved entrepreneur, I think about somebody who has integrity and they show up for their families, they show up for their community, and they show up for the people they're leading, which would be their employees. And that to me is somebody that's evolved. At the end of the day, if we can't keep our word to ourselves, then what good are we really?
When I met Mark, it was the first time that I heard about this feminine energy and masculine energy. I think he owns that, and he's always like trying to balance those two energies. The feminine side of him is like to be open, willing to be vulnerable, always like knowing that trusting someone is an act of courage. It's always reminding you that you are worthy, that you can have anything you want because of who you are as a living being.
When we look at masculine energy, I think we're looking at all of the doing, right? All of the executing. And I think when we look at feminine energy, we're looking at the ability to receive, to be able to sit inside of the container, for lack of better words, and just feel. And I think that men today are missing this balance. And I think what we're finding is we're finding the old school camp that I grew up in, which is like, we just have the discipline and the grit to just get through shit and get it done and do. But we completely ignore our intuition, our emotions, our feelings. And then you have this newer camp, which is like, I'm so tapped into my emotions and feelings, but they don't have the ability to execute because they become too soft. And I think it's an interesting component too, because both of them are actually the same, and I'll tell you why. Because they're both listening to their mind. They're not tapped into who they are. One's listening to their mind, which is a kick-ass disciplined mind, so they're able to get shit done. But one's listening to their mind, which is undisciplined and weak, and they're just sitting there kind of waffling around, not really doing anything. And I think it's when you bring those two together and you can really sit and listen to yourself and be in touch and connected is when you can come out as composed as a full product. The number one piece is getting them to become aware of what's actually going on around them. And then we take them down the client journey of really showing them, okay, here's the awareness, you actually see what's going on. How are you showing up? And they start to take a look at themselves and have like this mirror effect, and they see like, wow, I'm not actually showing up the way I want to. So then you have the young men, they're bought into that idea. They're bought into the Andrew Tates and the metric of like, oh, if I have this car, I have this watch. And to catch them early and say, hey, let me help you not spend 20 years of your life getting to a point that you thought was gonna bring you happiness. Imagine if you could find that happiness right now and then use the next 20 years of your life cultivating happiness in others.